I'm getting ready to write an article, and Vicki's going to edit it because it's my turn to write for Clay Target Nation on the 3 to 5 steps you have to go through to get from the mid-70s into the 90s and win tournaments. And of course, the editor, when I gave her the idea, said, "Yeah, I want you to do that story and be sure to give suggestions on how they get from disorganized and overthinking and fidgeting to calm, cool, and collected." And my retort to her was, it takes going through 3 to 5 thresholds of frustration and understanding what over-trying is before a shooter can go from, as Max described, fidgeting, tense, shuffling their feet, and constantly giving self-talk, to cool, calm, and collected like the pro shooters when they get in the cage. When they get in the cage, they're ready. They're not talking to themselves. They're all business. And if you hadn't watched the targets, you wouldn't know whether they hit it or missed it based on their physiological reaction. So tonight, I want to revisit that. I'd like to ask each one of you to think about it. And as we go through the evening, if there's something that stands out in your mind that you went, wow, well, I finally understand that. Or when you go from, God, I never shoot these well, to, I've got this one. There's a turning point in each presentation that's perceived as difficult in each one of you where it goes from, oh, man, what am I going to do with that, to, don't worry about it, I got this. I've got it. And it's different when you're practicing as opposed to when you're on game day. It is. But I shared with Rick, and I think I shared with Jeff yesterday when I was talking to him about what he was going to talk about. I think I shared with Jeff that we have to, a lot of static in the background, a lot of static in the background. A lot of static. Be still. We have to go from sage on the stage to cheerleader on the sideline to expert in shooting many times during a day in a clinic. And we have to take your gun and demonstrate how we want you to shoot the target, and we have to hit the target. And I made the comment to my good friend Rich Colo today when I was talking to him going down the freeway. Hi, Joe. Okay. Oh no, he's here. Okay, so I made the comment to him today that when I'm in the zone, when I have to do that in front of people, and it doesn't matter whether it's an 80-yard tower shot or a 50-yard chandelle or a 30-yard incomer, it doesn't matter what it is, we have to be able to play that movie in our head and with all confidence and without thought, preload the shot, call pull, and execute the shot successfully. Now, to some of you, that may not seem like much. But to be able to have to do that every time over and over again is a big deal to me. And I made the comment to Rich, when I'm having to do that, I don't have to focus hard on the bird. My focus has moved from physiological focus to concentration on, which means I'm combining physiological focus with mental focus, and my brain just takes care of everything. All I've got to do is see it behind the barrel, left of the barrel or across the barrel. And as it comes, whether my head's on the stock or not, as it comes to me, I'm going to make sure I'm going the same speed as that bird. And when I'm going the same speed as that bird, I'm going to send it. And something that I said last month that I think sums up what I'm looking for, but I would entertain some other thoughts about this tonight, and that is, I said self-correction, being able to self-correct is the pathway from 75 to 90. And I'm not sure you all understand the brevity of what I've just said, but when you're shooting below 75% in sporting clays, and Rich, I would say when you're shooting below 80% in skeet, you're still confounded with what the correction is, because the brain has not been able to deal with the complex visual decision that it has to make to kill the target, and you're still guessing at the correction. But for you to go from 75 to 90 or 80 to 98 in skeet, 75 to 90 in sporting clays, you have to know without a doubt what the correction is. And once you know what the correction is, you begin this, and it's not incremental. You begin this ascension to higher and higher performances. Because when you make the mistake and you instantly don't know what the correction is, you don't make that mistake as often. And sooner or later, that mistake is out of your wheelhouse. You've solved that problem. And getting into the 98s and 99s in skeet and getting into the 90 to 95 in sporting clays is about not making the same mistakes over and over again. And the only way you can not make the same mistakes over and over again is to be able to correct them on the next shot. And I said this last month in one of those periods that when I'm in the zone and I'm just saying what comes to me. And after I said it, I stopped and I said, wow, that's what I've been looking for. To be able to self-correct is the pathway from 75 to 90 in sporting clays and from 80 to 98 in skeet. However, I've added one caveat to that in my thinking and in some of the gun fitting that I've done in the last 2 weeks. Most people don't have a gun that shoots 50-50, straight on, centered up. Most right-handers are shooting a gun that shoots 8 inches left and 12 inches high, and the lefties are just the opposite. And because of that, they wallow in the 75 in sporting clays and in the 80s in skeet, and they don't understand because their pictures are not reciprocal. When you get a gun that finally does fit you without you having to put your head down hard on the stock, when you get a gun that absolutely shoots straight and dead on left to right, when your pictures become reciprocal, learning increases 2 to 3 times what it has been, because the pictures now make sense. And because the pictures make sense, self-correction is immediate, and when you correct something, the correction works. The reason people wallow in this mid-70s in sporting and in the 80s in skeet is their gun is not shooting where their brain thinks it is. And when they try to correct, sometimes the correction is right, sometimes it's not. And because most of the guns that people are shooting to the left if they're right-handed, they have to see twice as much lead on a bird coming from the left as they do on a bird coming from the right. And this is what confuses the onboard computer. I've come full circle on gun fit, and it's got to be flat, not high, 50-50, straight, dead on, left to right. And whenever you achieve something like that, dude, let me tell you, you're on the way to ascending to the level that your time and financial commitment will allow you to ascend to. So that's kind of a review from last month. Now I want to go to Tim. Tim, what was it we talked to you about last month on the Coaching Hour?
Fundamentally, I was struggling with, I'd say, compensating for speeds and distances. And I hate to use the word lead, but just getting the right distance between the target and the muzzles and adapting that to different presentations. That was the fundamental thing. So I'd gone to a couple of competition shoots, probably a little too early for me, struggled a lot with the pressure and the compensation, but I took away that I just need to learn how to adapt what I'm seeing to what I preload and what I do, and that's what I've been focusing on for the last month or so, and it's really helped.
Yeah, I also feel like that, now that you mentioned preload, I also feel like that the trip from 75 to 90 in sporting clays and from 80 to 98 in Skeet has to do with being able to predict exactly what it's going to look like when you pull the trigger and to be able to see the shot coming together as a movie. Would you say that you're beginning to understand that, Tim?
Yeah, and I think I understood that before, but the problem I had was I tended to, no matter if a target was crossing, I tended to use the same image each time, and I was ending up mostly behind a lot of targets and spot on just for a few, so I had to adapt that. I hate to use the word lead, but I had to get that image in my mind. I need to be further in front of that when I'm matching the speed, not so close to the target in matching the speed, and adapting that to what I'm seeing. Because I was just getting fooled by distances and slight changes in angles and speeds. And now it's starting to come together. But I think just, taking a look at the target, saying it's going to take about this, putting that in the preload helps me execute at the right speed and distance to the target.
Okay, so something I want you to try in this next month that we'll visit this next in May. The magic happens as far as lead goes. The magic happens when two things are present. Number one, you're able to mount the gun well in front of the bird so that the bird comes to the lead. And number two, you're able to keep your nose on the bird as it's coming to the gun. When you can see the bird further behind the barrel, so you can see it approaching, and as you're aware that it's approaching the muzzle, you begin to move the muzzle slowly away, the brain will fix the lead. So just continue doing what you're doing. What you're experiencing is a very normal part of learning what we're trying to get you to learn, because we eventually want for your brain to predict where that target's going to be without any interference or help from you. Now, as I said before, as I said last week or last month, almost all of my pictures look the same. I have to tell myself, shoot right at it. Otherwise, I'm going to be in front of it. Now, it's just me. I got to shoot right at that bird. And the rest of the time, I'm so far in front of these birds, as it's coming to me, my brain can choose any lead it wants to make the gun move at that point in time so that I can stabilize the shot and the lead's correct. What you're experiencing, I think, is something that everybody has to go through. You're making the jump from not being concerned about lead to having to give yourself a crib sheet on, I'm going to have to be well in front of this bird to hit it. And eventually And it'll happen one day. You're going to go shoot one day, and all of a sudden, these birds are going to be coming to you, and you're not going to have preloaded anything about lead. And all of a sudden, when it's stable, you pull the trigger, and the birds start blowing up, and you're going to go, wow. And that's what it's supposed to feel like. So,
yeah, I must say, I'm not.
Go ahead.
I'm not sitting there saying, well, that's going to take 3 yards or 12 feet or whatever it is. I'm not going through that. I don't know that, but you made the statement the last time. It's going to take a little, some, or a lot, and I think that's helped. Just saying I need about that much, and it's not. I'm not really physically measuring it. I can tell once I start going, and I'm adjusting as I match the speed. So that automatic part is starting to happen. But I've just been able to shoot more in the last month than I have for a long time, so that's helped as well.
Okay. Well, that's a good report. I mean, as I said, this is something that different people experience different things when they go through this. As I said just a minute ago, man, when the bird gets further than 20 yards away, out to 80 yards, 90 yards, it pretty much all looks the same to me. The bird's going to come to the lead. As the bird approaches the gun, I move slowly away, and when the picture's stable, I pull the trigger. And this is for Rich. I've gotten to the point in my shooting, and this is the part that I want to share with you, Rich. I've gotten to the point in my shooting where I don't have to focus hard. I mean, trying to focus on the target is not hard to me. It's very simple, and it's very easy. And we were talking today about getting people to focus on the target, but focus is a neurological thing, and when you begin to break targets at 50, 60, 80, and 100 yards where you can't see detail on the target, you begin to really appreciate how the brain can predict where it's going to be, as long as, and I want everybody to listen to what I'm about to say, as long as the amount of focus you have put on the target does not change as the target comes to the gun, focus will be easy. And the visual decision that the brain has to make is a simple decision. But the absolute instant that your percentage of focus on the target shifts away from the target to look at the gap of the gun, the decision ceases to become simple and becomes complex at that instant. And that typically happens after the command has been given to pull the trigger and before the trigger gets pulled. So it's absolutely, it's really important as the bird comes to you that you maintain that focus, that level of focus on that bird through the shot. And Tim, what you're defining for yourself now is that focus. And on the other side of what you're doing now will be a really nice, calm, relaxed. After you've seen the bird, it's like, I got this. I've seen this too many times. I know exactly what's going to happen. And the preload's automatic, and you don't have to struggle to focus on that bird. And I made the comment to Rich earlier today when we were talking on the phone that I don't have to see the front of the target. I think the fact that the bird is coming to me and I'm stabilizing that shot makes my concentration go to the front of the target. But I don't have to work hard to focus on a little bitty tiny part of the target. I just don't have to because I'm letting my brain take care of all the other things that we're doing. So I wanted to share that with you, Tim. And you're not far away. It'll come. Just keep struggling through it. And we'll talk about this again next month. So you get out there and shoot a bunch. And if you want to give us a call or send us an email, do that, and we'll do a little intervention between now and then. So thank you for sharing that. Vicki, you had some things that you wanted to share from last month. I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
Okay. Yeah, in just talking about and helping people get from 75 to 90, a couple of things I wanted to share was that, of course, I'm the queen of routine and plan and all that stuff. So before you get in that stand, you should have a plan, where to see it and where to break it. A confident plan that you're comfortable with. That only comes from previous experiences so that you can be very decisive with what you're going to do. When you cross the entrance of the stand, there should be no doubt, and if a negative thought comes in, replace it with something else. I had 3 very good shooters come in last week, and that was a big thing. I put a stick on the ground, and I said, okay, when you cross over this stick, we're in a tournament. What are you going to do? And I made them do their plan and their routine, and it was very interesting to watch them through the day because they all got better, but it made a really big difference in what they did. The routine is imperative to stay focused on the process. The routine prepares you mentally and physically for each shot. The routine relaxes you and keeps you in the present. Each shot that you shoot, whether in practice or in a tournament, should have a routine and a plan. It's real simple, folks. Make your plan, shoot your plan. People get too caught up in all the junk instead of just making this real simple. I'm a big person on visualization because that always helped me just to make it a little bit more clear to my brain what I wanted to see to make me shoot better. You want to put your mind in a position on every shot to have the greatest chance for success. You want to stay process-oriented, not outcome-oriented. I know as you get better, you're always thinking about the score. And where do I stand against the big boys, or where do I stand in my class? If you go there, you're done. You have to stay process-oriented. You have to stay in your routine so that you can finish the tournament well. Now, how do you stay process-oriented? That's the hardest part. You've got to do it in practice, so you don't have to think about it when you go to perform. Your practice needs to have a goal of what you are going to practice. Right to left, left to right, quartering, crossing, whatever it is, then go and do it. Remember that this is a hobby, folks. Practice should be fun. Enjoy the breaks so that you will take that to the tournament. The problem is that when you go from your wonderful practice of shooting really well, you go to the tournament and you get careful. You try to control everything. And then all you are thinking about is, please don't let me miss the target. Your whole mind and body reacts differently than it did in practice, and fear gets into your game. And you forget about trusting in yourself. Remember what you did in practice. Tournament day is what you have worked for. You've put all this time in on your practice for the tournament, but yet you become a different person for that tournament. So tournament day is what you've worked for. You might as well enjoy it. You paid a whole lot of money to be there. And going back to last month, the year that Rick took off to figure out what works for him best was perfect because now he doesn't have to think about all those nuisance decisions. He's very comfortable in his decisions of getting there either a day early, getting a good night's rest, having his own pillows, or if he chooses to just drive an hour or whatever to go to the tournament, then that's okay. But he knows exactly what he's going to do, and there's no issues. The other thing that I think that I see in people that are trying to get from 75 to 98. Their emotions run their lives when they're trying to score well.
Well,
you've got to take the emotion out of it, out of the misses.
Can you say that again?
Taking the emotion out of your misses, because it just destroys what you're doing. If you let emotions get in there, then you get adrenaline in there. Your heart races. You kind of go like in a Tracy mode, so that you're not thinking about what got you there. The process of...
Hey, hang on a minute. Hang on. There's somebody doing something in the background. Will you please just stop for the rest of the hour so we don't have all the background noise? Thank you. Go ahead.
There's an echo to what Vicki's saying.
Oh.
Vicki says it, and then there's an echo.
Oh, wow.
That happens sometimes on these calls. It'll go away on the recording. I'm sorry. You might want to, if you're listening on a cell phone, you might want to go to a landline or get a little closer to your booster if you have one. So,
Gil, I was getting the dogs out of the car.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So go ahead, Vicki.
Okay. Well, I just take the emotion out of the misses, so you don't go down that little rabbit trail. But you also must practice that. And when you're in practice and you don't hit a target, don't just stay there until you can hit it, because that may take like 3 hours and 4 cases of ammo. If you haven't hit it in 4 or 5 times, get away from it. Walk away. Do something else. Come back to it later on when the wires are uncrossed.
Yeah. One of the things that I neglected to mention when I was talking about self-correction, et cetera, is that something you just touched on, and that is you will never do any better on game day than you have done in practice. The thought that you can practice without a routine and then on game day implement your routine and you're going to shoot better is a myth. You'll never shoot on game day better than you've shot in practice. And we've talked about this in years past about how, and it comes back to self-correcting, how when everything begins to come together and you're shooting 75 to 78 or you're shooting 80 to 82 in Skeet, when everything begins to come together, your preload in practice begins to make more sense, and what you preload is what you get in the shot. That's what makes you get better. Let me say that again. When your preload is equal to the shot that you preloaded, that's what makes you get better, because at that point in time, you're building filler in the brain. If you go to practice today and you shoot 100 birds in sporting clays and you shoot an 87 and you shot great, you say, well, I shot great. Well, you may have shot great, but it did absolutely nothing for your ability to shoot well on a tournament day. Absolutely nothing for you. Absolutely nothing for you.